the tape for this, our main event of the evening. We introduce the champion, Chris, the West Side Strangler Brennan. Let's get it all!
I don't have any 25ers, but I'm all 45, 35.
Yeah.
One guy that's a 70, but he's brand new.
Right.
The other guys are, I don't have a lot of fighters. I have a ton of students.
Sure.
And 5 fighters.
That's how it should be.
In California, man, I had 150 students and 20 pros.
Right.
And now it's the opposite. I got hundreds of jiu-jitsu guys.
Well, those are the guys that pay the bills. You know, I know a lot of guys toil in this martial arts business, but it's a profitable thing, you know, and I didn't know that until I started working with Tim Crater, and Tim's got a great gym, and all of his guys have branched off. You know, my buddy Aaron Phillips, he's that was my wife. Return her call. Yeah, my buddy Aaron Phillips owns a gym. He's heading up here. He's gonna train with me tonight. But I mean, money to be made. Yeah, that's how you got to do it.
You're training at Fortis? Or doing your camps at Fortis?
I only come in on like Mondays and Tuesdays, and I finish up the rest of my work at home with my guys. But I come in and pretty much just push into these guys on Monday and Tuesday.
Nice.
And
it's a good room.
Get the hard rounds. Yeah, it's a good room, and that's the thing. Sometimes in Houston there's a great scene, and you can bounce around and find some good work. But sometimes it's good to just be a part of something, and that's kind of what I found here. And
yeah, I didn't realize you moved to Texas. How long you been in Texas?
I bought my house in 2019.
Okay.
And me and my wife, we first moved in 2017. So, but I've been bouncing around. I moved to Houston kind of to be in a centralized location. A 3-hour drive to Lafayette, 3-hour drive to Dallas. It's kind of somewhere where I could get everywhere. And plus the George Bush International Airport is 15 minutes from my home, so I can fly anywhere.
Guys, we're obviously already in the conversation. This is Matt Schnell. Matt's got a fight coming up in 10 or 11 days in UFC on the Ortega-Yair card, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's going to be a great night of fights. First time I talked to Matt, I messaged him after one of his fights, just trying to compliment him on I was impressed by the technique, his striking technique, and your range and everything, your head movement. It was impressive, and I knew you were from the local area, Louisiana, Texas area. Yeah. And do you remember that?
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely, because we actually do have some roots. You instructed Jordan Pulliam.
Yep.
Do you know who?
Yeah, Jordan's kid's down there right now.
Oh, no way!
Yeah.
Does Jordan live in Frisco now?
I think he lives here.
Okay.
He trained here for quite a while.
I see.
He trained me in California.
I wondered where he was.
Yeah, he trained me in California for years, and then I moved here. And the next thing you know, I heard he was in Louisiana.
Yep.
And he messages me one day and he says, "Hey, I'm in Louisiana. Can I come get some privates from you today or this weekend?" I said, "Sure." He goes, "I'll bring a couple buddies." I was all right. I'm in my garage at the time. I didn't open a gym yet. He rolls up in a minivan, and 4 dudes his size get out of the car, and the car raises up like 1.5 foot. Yeah. He has a guy that's a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, but he has competed in the World's Strongest Man contest.
Wow.
And man, it was 2 hours of mayhem in my garage.
Yeah.
It was then me, you know.
Well,
And,
back in that time, you know the deal. Like I tell people all the time, kind of the story of how I got started. I literally graduated from high school and found that gym, walked in, started fighting people, and that's how it all began.
So the gym in Louisiana.
The gym in Louisiana.
Okay, so I came
Jordan
out there and taught a
Pulliam's gym.
seminar one time.
That's right, and I missed it. I think I made my amateur debut, and we were trying to jam back to get to your seminar. I missed the seminar. But you went over a bunch of front headlock series things, darces, guillotines, and even to this day, like I think that the seminar that you taught, I got there late and I didn't get to be at the seminar, but I made somebody show me the
stuff that we went over.
The stuff that we went
Nice.
over, and I think that even to this day, my front headlock series is probably influenced by you. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So born in Louisiana, grew up and raised there.
Born in Mississippi, but spent most of my life in Louisiana. My dad was in the military, so I was born in Amory, Mississippi, but spent the majority of my life in Louisiana, bouncing between my mom and dad here and there, but yes, mostly in Louisiana. Grew up fighting. The fight scene I came up with was this region, Louisiana, Dallas, Texas, Houston.
Sports in high school?
Played football, ran track, a little bit of wrestling. Wrestled my freshman year in high school when I lived in Florida with my dad. And then when I moved back to Louisiana, There was no wrestling.
Non-existent?
Yeah, it wasn't a thing. Other schools had wrestling programs, but mine didn't. So I ran track.
You wish you did?
I wish I did. Yeah, I sure do. Yeah, yeah.
I started wrestling as soon as I had 3 decision losses to wrestlers. I was like, okay, well, better start wrestling.
Better start. Yeah.
And it's definitely the dictator of where the fight takes place.
Absolutely, and even my small background in wrestling when I started, it made me stand out amongst the other guys that were just starting, because I had somewhat of a base, though I lost it quickly as soon as I learned any type of thing off my back. That's where I was, because predominantly over my amateur career, I was grappling a lot off my back.
Yeah, that'll happen.
Yeah.
But a small amount of wrestling. Like my son Lucas has only wrestled. He only wrestled 4 years in high school, but he's yet to have somebody not be able to, or be able to get back up once he's got the takedown. You know, it's pretty dominant. So it's definitely a part of a game plan. And you see it kind of, everyone gets away from it now. The style I talk about a lot, the MMA style is a style, right? It's strike, strike, strike. If you get taken down, try to get back up. You know, not a lot of people trying to take you down to submit you, trying to take you down to win a round, you know, and whatnot. So it's, if you get specialists in certain things, you know, it's and they can make it happen. Typically, they're better than that person in that area. But it's tough now to hold people down.
It's really tough to hold people down, and you know, coming up in Louisiana, we learned how to do jiu-jitsu. I didn't learn how to wrestle very well, but when I moved out to South Florida, that's something I realized. Like, my jiu-jitsu could carry me because it was that much better than guys. But those guys were winning rounds, stealing rounds. They were concerned with mixing in the strikes with the takedowns, and that's what I learned out there at American Top Team, because I was going with guys, and it's like, I'm doing great stuff, but they're probably still eking out the rounds because they're scoring takedowns, and they're just holding me down. They know what they're doing. Of course I'm better. But it's just something that's kind of shaped me over time. But and we get away from the things we're good at. Even guys that are really good at wrestling, they start striking and then they stop wrestling.
Power, right? It's like, there's so many good wrestlers that fell in love with their power and rarely wrestled again. Some jiu-jitsu guys did the same thing.
I'm advanced in my martial arts career. I'm 32 years old. I'm about to fight my 12th fight in the UFC. And it's just funny to think that at some point my skills in certain areas were sharper because I grappled so much more off of my back, because that was such a part of my game. And it's not as much anymore. And though I'll still snag you up down there, I'm not as good as I used to be.
That's interesting. Your striking's obviously gotten to a whole new level, right? I mean, you didn't strike first.
I grappled first. Jordan's gym, we were predominantly grapplers, but my first instructor, his name was Brent Mason, and he's still teaching guys to fight in Shreveport, Louisiana, has his own spot. But he was from a boxing base, so it was boxing and jiu-jitsu, and honestly, we just get into a dirty, dingy room and fight each other, a bunch of dudes, and that's how we did it.
That's a good way to get tough and get better.
Duke it out until you know, last man standing.
Where did you get the majority of your striking there, or just over time?
Over time, yeah.
Like, your footwork and head movement is really good.
I appreciate that.
And every time I watch it, it's not, you don't move quite as much as Dominic Cruz, which is a good thing, but you move like him and enough to where your head movement and stuff is very
interestingly enough. I mean, he was one of my main influences. Not that I wasn't learning how to fight in Shreveport, Louisiana, but it was a lot of like me watching people that I admired, me trying to emulate that and make it my own based on what I was learning. But I started kickboxing. Brent wanted me to box as an amateur too, so we did some kickboxing. I boxed as an amateur. I won 2 novice Golden Glove titles, and that brought things around for me really well, just putting myself in that competitive sphere. And it reminded me a lot of wrestling, like amateur USA boxing, because you go to this place, you'd fight 3 times.
Yeah, multiple fights in the
multiple
USA
fights
boxing,
at the US, and it was just great experience. And I remember coming from that, going back to MMA, just having a lot more confidence with my striking, and really didn't fight that many fights. I think I did 5 on the books and 1 like smoker deal of just boxing. And that's not a lot of experience, but it definitely brought me along. And then since then, traveling, I traveled, you know, worked with multiple striking coaches all over the world. I did like 8 weeks in Thailand.
Oh, nice. Where'd you train in Thailand?
Phuket top team. Between Phuket top team and I was staying really close to Sinbi, so we were really doing a lot of Muay Thai at Sinbi, and we'd go and grapple at Phuket top team like once or twice during the day. So
sweet. I know Mike Swick's got a really nice place out there, that AKA.
I ran into Mike Swick out there.
Oh,
He hadn't built the gym yet. This was like 2013.
Okay.
But I remember seeing him out there. I shook his hand and he said he was coming with something, and they seem to be doing well.
He's got a beautiful place, and then just added on a whole new section to the spot. But I've never been, but looking at it looks
cool.
pretty amazing.
We should all just pack up and go. I'm down.
Can't we?
Yeah, my wife wouldn't like it very much, but I'm down.
So when you were training jiu-jitsu and stuff, did you compete at all?
Competed, yeah.
A little bit?
Just local stuff, the Louisiana Open, Arkansas Opens, Houston Opens, things like that. I would bounce around and always did well. And I honestly think that so when I started training, I trained for over a year before I took my first fight. And I wanted to fight.
Right.
And all the guys that I was coming up with, they were like, they'd be there for 2 weeks and they'd fight. Right. But Brent, my coach, he held me to a different standard. He wanted me to have time to develop a little bit. And so I grappled a lot. And thank goodness for it, because I don't come from a background of excellence. And I talk about that a lot. Some people don't like it because they think I'm talking down on myself, and I'm not. But I just had to learn how to win. Yeah. And I taught myself to win through grappling tournaments, because I'd show up to these things and we'd wrestle 13 times that day, and I'd get my hand raised 13 times and be like, that's what I'm talking about. Because I didn't know I could win coming from other sports, being a small guy. I always competed hard, but
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I asked that question because people comment on Lucas, how comfortable he was his first fight, but he had over 300 jiu-jitsu and wrestling matches before he took his first fight. And he fought his first fight at 17. You know, as an amateur, he fought twice at 17 against a 27 or 28-year-old guy and choked him, whatever. But he was just so comfortable. We were talking like this between rounds, and he had never been in a fight in his life. You know, he was a chill kid and whatever, so it was always mind-blowing to me, but it had to be the comfort of just getting out and competing constantly.
And I think you being in that role too, because though he's been coached by other people, just there is that comfortability of having you there. And I didn't necessarily have that, so it wasn't smooth sailing. I was early on really comfortable, and I think it's because I grappled so much and competed a lot coming up as a young guy too, knew how to compete. But yeah, I've had to figure this thing out, one step at a time, and I'm still figuring it out.
You say your coach held you to a different standard than the other guys, but how many of those guys ended up in the UFC?
None of them.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah,
that's probably a good thing.
And coincidentally, Brent, he always believed in me, and I appreciate that about him. He was the first person to ever tell me, like, "Hey, kid, we might have something here."
Right.
So
you can do this.
Yeah.
Where do you train? Where are you training in Houston?
In Houston, I bounce between a bunch of different gyms, but I have my main coaches, and that's Eve Edwards. Has been helping me out a lot here lately, and he teaches at Heritage Muay Thai. And then my kickboxing coach, he bounces around with me everywhere we go. His name's Alex Chang, and he's kind of the mad scientist behind it all. We've been cooking up some good stuff, me and Chang. But then I come out here, Coach Safe. He's kind of the general at the top of the hill, pointing in the direction to go. And we trying to head in that direction. But it's a good little squad. For me, I've always kind of had the same types of people in, like there's roles that people fit in, and I try to keep my guys as close to me. And over time things change, but I haven't burnt a bridge with anybody. Anybody I've ever worked with, we still cool. So.
Good. Me and Eve go way back.
Yeah,
way back.
He's a man.
Me and him were supposed to fight. And
for some reason, I thought y'all did. I was looking at your record on my way here, and I was like, I thought he fought Eve.
I fought everybody but him.
Yeah.
But 9 days before the fight, I took a shot on one of my guys that was throwing a kick, and I got caught and split open. I ended up with 14 stitches.
Yo.
And my friend Jeremy stepped in and replaced me on 9 days. He ended up winning a decision, but it was Ask Eve About the Fight. It was called Wet and Wild. It was outdoors, and it was raining.
Oh,
and they were
goodness.
fighting in King of the Cage outdoors in the rain. they both slipped on head kicks and fell to their butt at least 4 times in the fight. The only reason Jeremy won, all 3 rounds ended with him with even a triangle, but it was so competitive, but it was just sloppy and all over the place. It was called King of the Cage, Wet and Wild.
King of the Cage, Wet and Wild. Yeah, I bet he will. I'm gonna ask him about that.
He's a stud, man. I always enjoy watching him fight from way back.
He's a bright guy too. I mean, really, for me, just kind of fills in the gaps. You know, I feel like over time, I've been in front of so much and learned so much more. I've forgotten more about it than I display on a nightly basis. But sometimes having a guy like Eve or even yourself, like we could get to work, and I'd be like, I've done this. You know, I know what you're talking about here. Right. I remember this, and we could catch on pretty quick.
Refresher.
And I feel like that's how it is with Eve. He's always filling in the gaps for me, kind of tightening my game, and It's been good. It's been really good.
So started fighting, moving along fairly quickly, and then you ended up. How did you end up on season 24 of The Ultimate Fighter?
It was interesting because they reached out to me. That was the season that there were no tryouts. It was invite only type of thing. So at the time I was the interim legacy champion. And the season was
Is that when they had all the champions?
All the champions.
Oh, okay,
right.
Yes.
So Damasio was the real. Well, he was the champ. But before we fought, he got hurt, so I ended up fighting Clayton Mai, and that's how I won the title. And Clayton had actually beaten me before, so it was a big win for me. And coming off of that, I figured I was the legacy champ. I was on a 7-fight win streak, and I had finished everybody too. It was like 7 fights in a row, 7 finishes in a row. I was like, I'm gonna get in the UFC surely. And then one day my phone rang and they were like, it's gonna be The Ultimate Fighter, and it wasn't the route I wanted to take. I wanted to march right in there, but I'm thankful I did. It was a good experience overall, and I think everything came along the way it needed to.
So how? That's 6 weeks, correct?
6 weeks.
How was that?
It was as hard as anything I've ever done.
Yeah.
Honestly, and I thought that I believed that I had. Because that I'd spent so much time away from my family, I was in a long-distance relationship, I believed that I was predisposed to the types of pressures I would be under. And because of that, I had an advantage.
Nice.
But I got in that house, and I was wrong. I was sweating bullets the whole time, having trouble sleeping, missing my girl, missing my family, just missing being in contact. And it really did. It had an effect on me.
They take everything away, right?
Yep.
Like you don't get, there's no phone, no TV. Well, yeah, maybe TV, but basically
they'd let us watch the fights, and it was cool while we were in there because there were fights every weekend at the time. It had been one of those times we had gotten in that moment when it was like fights every weekend, so we got to look forward to that and watch the fights, and that was cool. But it was tough. It was tough, and going into it. There's cliches. People say, they're like, listen, the best guy's not going to win this. The most focused guy's going to win this. And they were very right. And look at the monsters that came off of that season. Yeah. Kai, Brandon Moreno, obviously Tim Elliott won the season. But then there was Pantoja. He was the #1 seed. I mean, just a who's who of absolute murderers. And then Tim was the guy who he was focused and he got it done. And
we were just at Glory for Luke's last camp for a little bit, and Tim and Brandon are both there training together every day. And I thought that was interesting, because at some point they could possibly run into each other.
Yeah, Tim always spoke highly of Brandon. I did some time with Brandon Moreno in Mexico City too, so I'm familiar.
Oh, nice.
And Brandon was on that season, and we were all really cool. But I remember during this season, Tim was like, let me tell y'all something. This kid, Brandon Moreno, He ain't the one y'all want. All you guys calling for matchups on the finale, why don't you leave his name out of your mouth, because he's a killer. And he is. He really is.
I was watching him train. Every day we showed up, we'd show up 30 minutes early, and both of them were already there sweating. Mm-hmm. And it was pretty intense there. It was every day at 10 o'clock, 50 fighters on the mat. Yeah. 50 every day at 10 o'clock, and 20 of them in the UFC. I was like, holy smokes,
What a great group too.
Oh, yeah.
For me, it's a group that I look to often, and I like that group of guys. I think James Krause has done a good job, and also not necessarily destination city either. It's
Right.
it's hard to command such a crowd. Like
Oh,
this
yeah.
this is Dallas, and Coach Safe's room is deep too. But it's Dallas, Texas.
Right.
You know, it is still somewhat of a destination. There is a nightlife here. There are pretty women, but Kansas City, Missouri, that's
Yeah.
not exactly the place that
Lee's Summit. He's not even in. It's off the side of
that's
Kansas
right.
City and
That's
Lee's
right.
Summit. It's a jaunt to get to anywhere from there, and that's what I thought was crazy because they're guys. You know, the kid from Ireland. He's there.
Bellator kid.
Yeah,
Can't think
yeah.
of his name.
Him and Lucas trained a lot while they're there. And then guys just moving in from all over the place. I had a kid from here that was from up that direction, move home, and then while we were there, he moved to Lee's Summit just to train there full time. And then it's there's a lot of I talked to Rolly. You know Rolly Delgado?
Rolly Delgado, yeah.
Talked to Rolly while I was there because TJ goes up there, and then Bryce had been there once, and he said, "Yeah, those are they're destination gyms." And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, all the guys in there were trained by guys like me and you, and they all came together, and now there's just a bunch of killers in one spot."
Yeah, and
I was like,
I think that obviously there's that's hard. That's a hard pill to swallow as a guy who wants to cultivate talent and build guys up.
Sure.
But it is almost a necessary evil too, and I feel like they always come back.
Yeah,
Like for me, like I'm back home. I lived at American Top Team. I've done that, and sometimes I do miss that, and I find myself thinking like maybe I should get back to an American Top Team or something like that. And that's what made me seek out Fortis, is just to get in that room and push into those guys. But I don't know.
For sure, it's a game changer as far as the level that you train with regularly. Luke had a tough guy coming up this last camp. We hadn't gone anywhere except for we'd go to Arkansas, train with Bryce and TJ, or Levi comes over and trains on Sundays with the spars, and that's it. He just runs through everybody else here, and I was in a kind of panic. I'm like, man, we aren't training with anybody.
Gotta find this guy.
And you got a tough guy. And within 3 days, we packed our bags and went to Glory for a week and just walked in and trained with some killers. We'll spend half his next camp there.
And you can see Lucas can hang, and he's a talented kid. He can hold his own.
He can, but he was a deer in headlights for the first little bit because the pace, and everybody was after him, the next guy. And I said, you know why? I said, they don't give a shit who you are. The next guy's you too, and the next guy's you too. There's 20 guys in the UFC here. They don't care who you are. They're not worried about it either. Don't worry about who's next, because even if you win that round, you're gonna lose the next round.
Right.
And they weren't. No one was jerks. No one even went crazy hard. It was just a fast, hard pace for a long time,
and you got to know no easy rounds. Each round is going to be a tough one. But with that being said, I think putting yourself in that environment for too long can disrupt your progression as well, because
confidence
I mean, just a quick example for me, I used to be a strangling son of a gun. If I got your back, it was done, it was over. And I kind of gassed myself in a fight, and then I moved out to American Top Team, and I can't rear naked choke anybody there. All these guys are so good, so that became that like it's like a fossil of my game that's still here, but it's not, because I've gotten away from it. And I got away from it because the guys that I was going with on a daily basis were too difficult to choke. And obviously you want to progress so that you can choke those guys, but we all
need the guys in between as well, though.
Guys in between. It's so important because iron does sharpen iron.
Sure.
But if we're swords and we're battling each other, if you take two swords and bang them into each other, are we sharper or are we duller? We're more dull.
For sure,
So
for sure.
what the thing that actually sharpens you is a white belt.
Yeah.
And you do need those tough rounds. You need to put yourself in that tough environment. But there is a point of diminishing return.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. Yeah. Those off rounds are the ones you actually improve in, and you get to do all the stuff that you've been working on that's not working on that guy yet, but it's just kind of got to inch your way through it.
And work on your pace, and you should be able to like break up tempo and slow things down. I go with Brandon Moreno, the pace is here. My next round, it's a different guy, different puzzle. The pace is here, and it's good putting yourself in that environment. But I would say Lucas is probably a stud. He's gotten good here with you on these mats, And you'd be surprised. 15 minutes, go out there, take out anybody.
Yeah.
He
trains with Bryce Mitchell all the time, and they are dead even.
Really?
I mean, they are dead even.
That's incredible.
If anything, Luke gets his back, can't sub him. He's very difficult to tap, but, he's improved since the first day we went out there. To now, has been such a huge improvement. But and Bryce is a stud, man. Bryce is so difficult to deal with. He's hay bale strong.
Yep.
No one knows how strong he is. He doesn't look it, but he is so strong.
I grew up with guys like Bryce. Yeah. I know that hay bale strength. I understand it, and I'm so impressed by Bryce. What a rise he's had.
Jeez. He told me what he was going to do to.
He's hilarious
to
too.
Barboza, and I was like, "Are you sure?" Yep. He goes, I'm going to switch and fight him southpaw. I've never fought southpaw. And I was like, oh, so you're going to try it on him? He said, yep.
That's a great idea.
I'm going to hit him. I'm going to knock him down. I'm going to take him down. And I was like, sure enough, man, within 2 minutes, he sat him on his butt with a left hand. I was like, holy crap, And then it just dominated him.
Yeah.
I know. It was Barboza. And I just sat there. I was like, there's no way this is happening.
Yeah. What a performance.
Yeah.
I look forward to seeing what Bryce does next. I think the kid's got it all.
He's calling out the top two guys right now. As soon as that fight was over this week, and he was calling out Volkanovski and Max.
When you have that type of grappling acumen too, he's a tough matchup. Like you think about who's, and there's probably somebody who can stifle that grappling somewhat, but he can wrestle too. I mean, and he's not wrestling like a all-American wrestler. You can tell, but
no, he wrestled 3 years in high school.
He believes in it.
Oh, yeah.
He goes for it, and he scores.
Yeah, he does.
He's impressive.
So back to Ultimate Fighter. Got through that. It was difficult, obviously. 6 weeks, you're sharing a room with guys. You don't have any communication with anybody. You get out of that. And how long is it before you fought? You fought on the finale, right?
I fought on the finale, but I got offered the finale fight 6 days before the finale.
Oh, jeez.
And I fought Rob Font on 6 days' notice. And honestly, I was like 150. I had to cut weight. It wasn't that difficult because I was so nervous that the weight came off pretty easily. But it was not a. Your moment you get signed by the UFC, you expect confetti to fall from the sky and it to be a special moment, and it really wasn't. In fact, it was more like, wait, I got to fight Rob Font?
Didn't get a chance to celebrate the fact that you signed.
Ridiculous. 6 days? All right, I'll see y'all there.
Did he have another fight that fell out or something? Or
yeah, I can't remember who he was supposed to fight, but it fell through. And
Rob's tough, man.
Yeah, he's tough. It ended up being me, and had good moments against him. I was competitive. He was really big. We checked in.
I was going to say, did he move up or were you fighting up?
I was fighting up. I fought at 35 for this one. And when we checked in the next day, I have no idea why it was this way, but we checked in right next to each other. And I stepped on the scale, I weighed like 142. He stepped on the scale next to me, he was 163. I was like, holy cow, this guy is massive. And I remember facing off with him, and his hand was as big as my head. I was like, This is a scary one, but competitive. Like I said, I went out there, scrapped, did my best. Got knocked out in the first, but tried my best.
Yeah, him and Cater kind of trained in the same area out there, and they're both
gangsters.
Yeah, tough.
Solid.
I would say up and comers, but they're not really up and comers anymore. But they're both solid,
established at this point.
Yeah,
I like watching them fight. I'm a fan.
Yeah, and then to watch what Max does to Cater, I was just like, holy smokes.
And then to see what Volkanovski did to Max this weekend, I was like, what?
Man, he stepped up, a different level this time.
He's on another planet.
It was wild to watch that.
Somebody out there can get him. Maybe it's Bryce Mitchell.
If he gets him to the ground, he could,
Yep.
It's wild, but he didn't wait. I think 2 minutes into that fight, 2.5 minutes into that fight, Volkanovski starts saying, I'm faster this time. I'm faster than you. You can't handle my speed. And he was accurate. He was correct. And he was landing, and Max was, not reaching him. He was in and out, covering distance so well with that left, right, or right, left. And I was just like, wow, like he was impressive looking.
Really impressive. And Max had such a great performance in the last one, so I thought that Max was going to get him this time. And I like Max, so maybe a part of me was being a little bit biased. But yeah, good on Volkanovski. He's especially for he's limited as far as his stature is concerned, and but he puts those things to use. though he was the much shorter fighter, he was fighting longer.
Yeah.
He was landing from distance, and that stuff's, I mean, so impressive.
He talks about moving to 55, but he's so short. Even at 45, at 55, he'll be really short, you know. But he does cover the distance well and use range well. Just 55's another, like, where are you going to go when you're that guy? You're not going to jump in and get number 10.
Right.
You're going to be right there.
He's going to fight Poirier.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, that's a tough one, but I'll watch. I'll tune in.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So, obviously, you fought a lot of really good guys in the UFC. This is your 12th coming up. You had 3 cancellations with Alex Perez.
I think it was 5 by the time it was all said
really?
and done, because we both
It just
got
shows
COVID.
3 in a row right now.
Yeah, we both got COVID too. Like, we were supposed to fight. Maybe he got COVID. Then when they moved it, then we were supposed to fight again. Then I got COVID, and then
Was the last one, was it your heart thing?
So and then we had the one where we weighed in, or I weighed in, made weight. I'm sitting in the back, and the Nevada State Athletic Commission EMT comes up and starts kind of like checking on me, and everything was fine. But then a doctor comes over, puts his fingers to my neck, tells me to stand up, says my heart rate shoots to the sky, and then cancels the fight. Honestly, the craziest thing I've ever been a part of.
When I was hearing about that, and then I think I talked to you about it for a second, that was wild. That first of all, it's so dumb that they do the doctor thing right after the cut.
Ridiculous.
You know, Bellator just this last fight moved it to after the mock, which was 3 hours later.
Makes so
way
much more
better.
sense, yeah.
But I believe it had to do with what happened with you, because I had a conversation with somebody out there. But to do it right then, like, of course your heart is racing.
Yeah.
You know, of course.
And not only that, but I didn't go looking for medical attention. I sat down in the back. I wasn't feeling good. I had a hard cut, but I made the dang weight. I made the mark. And all I did was ask if I could sit in the back. I'm sitting in the back, trying to get, like, my fluids they're making me queasy, so I don't want to take them down too quick.
Right.
And then I asked for like a cup of ice water. And that, you can't do that. You can't drink ice water when you're all drawn out,
Right.
and because it just makes you shiver. And
Right.
so it turned into, it was an ordeal, and I have to take some responsibility for it, because I should have just kept it moving. There was no reason for me to sit down in the back. I wasn't feeling great, but hindsight being what it was, I should have just kept it moving, and it would have been fine. But yeah, that was a strange one. And then we had the mishap where we were supposed to fight in Houston. I made weight. He missed weight by 2 pounds. And this was only, I think this was 8 weeks after I had made weight. And we had to push it, because, like, they wanted us to go the next weekend. It was a quick turnaround, especially
The next weekend?
for a hard cut. Yeah, they wanted us to go the next
Could
weekend.
they count that as the weigh-in?
I know. And that's the thing. It was like, hey, we can do that, but I don't know. It's going to be tough. But I could have made it the next weekend. Then they wanted to do it like 5 weeks later. I could have made weight. But the whole thing was, Alex was like, I can't make weight. So we pushed it back 10 weeks from the original date where I weighed in and had the mishap. And then he came up 2 pounds heavy. And it wasn't even him coming in heavy that really had me most disgruntled the second time around. It was the fact that he weighed in before I did. You know, I was upstairs cutting 0.4 to make weight.
Right.
And he weighed in, and I was already hydrating by the time that I come back down and cut again. So, yeah, we kind of pitched it back and forth between the team and decided that it wasn't
So he
the best
missed and was hydrating, wasn't trying to get it off?
Yeah, wasn't trying to get it off. Yeah. And I understand when you get to a point where it's like, I'm not cutting anymore. And, you know, I'm big too. Weight's always hard to make. But if I'm going to miss weight, I'm showing up at 11. I'm showing up at the last moment. Even if it's just even if I didn't rot in the sauna that whole time, that's just a show of goodwill.
Sure.
I tried till the end. Thank you very much. And yeah.
What do you walk at?
About 150 pounds. About 150 pounds.
So 25.
Yeah, but you know, I'm bringing it down. This weekend I hit 141. And typically I've been looking to wake up under 140. That's when I know I'm there. But here over the last 6 months or so, I don't get that small anymore. I'm lucky to wake up 145.
What do you do in water?
Water as much as I can.
I mean, what do you cut in water at the end?
This last time I woke up at 133 on cut day.
Okay.
So that, and we sweat off. And this is what I did this last time. That was such a game changer, and I had been skipping out on it because I'd had bad luck with like trying to cut a little, then trying to cut the rest. Sometimes my body would hold on to it, but I think I've gotten myself and my nutrition in a way where I'm gonna keep sweating. So this last time I broke a sweat at noon. I woke up at like 133, probably sipped on to 134, left my noon sweat at like 130, and then just cut 3 that night, and it was so much better, so much easier, so much more manageable.
Nice. How long you run your camps? Ideally.
I'd like 8 weeks to get prepared, but I'm always training. I'm one of these guys that tries to stay busy.
Right.
But you can't be getting ready for a fight year round.
Right.
But I feel like here over the last year and a half or so, that's
what you've been doing.
That's what I've been doing. Yeah, getting ready for fights.
The guy you've got coming up, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name. I'll let you do it.
Sumuderji.
Sumuderji. Fighting out of where?
He is Tibetan.
Tibetan.
But I think he trains with the Chinese PI, maybe. Okay. He probably has connections over there. He's bounced around. I've seen him at Alpha Male before. I've seen him at American Top Team. Talented kid, really good striker, sharp, young.
If MMA math works for you, you submitted Louis Smoka. Louis submitted him.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I wish it were that easy. Why even fight the fight? Send me the second check. Let's just get this over with. No, that's the plan though. I will say he has made a lot of strides with his takedown defense. He's a wily little scrappy mofo. Yeah. It's not gonna be an easy one. If I'm able to ground him, which who knows? If I'm out there kickboxing with him, doing okay, it might just be 15 minutes of kickboxing. But it might not too, because I think I could close the distance, maybe string him up. But
you have the advantage on the ground for sure.
I would think so. Yeah. He does look like he's scrappy. He does look athletic, and he's big. He's big for flyweight. So it'll be interesting. He's coming off of a layoff. I think he tore his ACL, but probably been working with the PI. It's not like he skipped a beat. He's going to come back just fine, maybe stronger. Maybe bigger. Who knows? So I'm expecting his best. I think he's worthy. Number 12 currently in the world, and it's gonna be a tough one. But I think I'm gonna get it done.
Have you trained the PI?
I have.
What do you think? There's people that are actually spending their camps there now, huh?
Yeah, and they're bouncing between like Extreme Couture, and then they'll kind of go and do a couple things at the PI. Yeah, it's nice. It's nice. I think it's great. I think what the UFC has done with everything. When they first were talking about the PI, I was just like, man, just pay me more money. I would prefer that. Yeah. But then after seeing it and it being around for a long time, and they've made a lot of strides, and they're actually doing real work as far as like figuring out how to make us better and perform the absolute best, and they work on our nutrition. Every time we go to a UFC event, but from the time I land until I weigh in, I have somebody checking on me, checking my food, making sure that we're going to be okay. And since I am a little bit on the big side, I think they're always kind of looking at me like, is this guy going to make weight? Right. But I will. I'm going to make it.
They got a way now. They're telling people what weight they can make, right? Like if you want, you can make 35 if you're a 45er. Yeah. I forget who they just did that with, a girl. And they tested her to see, what she could possibly get down to, and she was able to drop a weight class because of that. And I think Misha just did that too. That's why she was going to 25. But going down a weight class, it's always tough.
Hey, I couldn't do it. There's not a weight class below me, fortunately. And I think if they did run those tests on me, they would see like this kid.
Until you're a 35er.
Yeah, well, and that's how I feel. If you're any bigger than me at this weight class, you're too big. Yeah. So, and because of that, I do not mind fighting the bigger guys because of the cost it takes for them to make weight. Right. And if you make that mark, I'm gonna clip that chin, and that's how I've always felt. That's how I felt with Alex Perez. Like, yeah, this guy's got the advantage. He's a great grappler. He's a great wrestler. He swings hard, but this dude's huge. Right. You have to hit that mark. You hit that mark, I'm gonna find that chin. Bing. Yeah, and those we know when it costs a little bit more, those last 2 pounds makes you a little chinny.
Well, that's why it's when people like he missed by 2 pounds. We didn't cut that last 2 pounds. That takes that edge away. You know, that's the hardest part.
We all know the last 2 pounds, those are the ones that count.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that hurt.
Sure.
So
after this fight, you know, you get through this fight, and you know, anything next?
I'm having my second child in January.
Oh boy.
So my wife is pregnant right now, so I would like to stay busy. I'd like to fight again before the year's end, and I've got a name in mind, but we just got to get through this first guy first, and then we'll get on that microphone and I'll call my shot. But yeah,
Where are you right now?
I think I'm ranked number 9.
9. Okay.
And I've kind of been stuck at 9 for a couple of years, and tried to, you know, had an opportunity this last time, fought number 4, came close, had him close to getting him out of there, and just wasn't able to do it, and just had a lapse in judgment. And I'm a grappler, you know, I can shake off a guillotine,
Right.
but sometimes you get snagged up, and it happens like that. It's been eating at me. I want to get back out there and get a W more than anything. I'd go out there and make it an ugly fight, and as long as we get the dub, I'm good with it.
Sure.
I just want to get the win.
Speaking of guillotines, what'd you think of Cerrone?
Tough one.
Yeah, they're
Tough
both
one.
so good on the ground. It was
Both
crazy
so
to
good
see
on the
him get
ground.
tapped. He hadn't been tapped since 2010.
Yeah. And last, did he submit Jim Miller the last time?
Head
kicked him.
Yeah.
Cerrone can grapple.
Oh, he can.
It was sometimes, you know, Jim Miller, like he said, he locks in, and I'm not quite there with my guillotine. He said at the end of it, he was like, I can do that in my sleep. Once I got my hands together, I knew it was done.
Yeah.
My guillotine's pretty good, but I haven't quite turned that corner to where it's like it's over with when I get it locked in.
Yeah, it was crazy to see. He actually reached all the way through to the tricep and then reached his other hand through.
Yeah.
So I wasn't even sure what his grip was under there, because it wasn't like a 10 finger. And an arm in guillotine, if the arm's not across, it's pretty hard to finish.
Yeah.
And it was pretty quick to tap, and I was like, dang, I wish I'd see his grip under there.
Right, and it was weird because his hand was a lot deeper, and it's
Yeah.
deeper because I like to hide. I do the arm in guillotine too, and I like to almost hide my hand between your shoulder, like both my hands. The arm will come through the underarm here, and I'll like hide them up here.
Right.
And when I can get them locked up there, I know I've got it too. But it's hard to get it up there. But yeah, he had a weird grip. It was far across. Some cool stuff has been happening. How about the rear naked choke that who was that? My guy from American Top Team.
What it looked like?
He had the grip like this, and he reached around with this arm to reinforce it. So he had this hand in and reached around. Thiago Moises.
Okay.
Did
Oh
it.
yeah, he's good.
And it was wild. I've been playing with it. You know, I can't quite get. I need a little seminar from Thiago Moises, but I like it.
Luke does your regular arm triangle, and instead of going to your head, he turns them on their side and catches their tricep that's across and folds it further across. It is so tight. I thought for sure that's how this last fight was going to end, because he did it to so many people in the camp, and the guy turned his back, so he didn't get it. But
He'll get it one day.
yeah, for sure. It was like every single round someone was getting stuck in it. I was like, man, that is a nice adjustment.
Yeah.
And once it was on, it was so tight.
He must be able to do it because he's got long arms and he can kind of.
Yeah, he's lanky.
It's just cool what people can do and how it's all changing. It's definitely neat.
So, last thing, you were talking about your number 9, been there for a couple years. Cowboy and Jim Miller tied at 23. They were tied at 23 wins, which was the most in UFC history. Neither one of them ever been champ. That, to me, that shows the grind underneath the champ, right? Like, how many guys are doing that, recycling, fighting, you lose one, you're back 2-3 fights.
Yep.
You get back there again and you lose. And unless you're the guy who's Khabib, Usman, the guys that are just hanging out at number 1, number 2, they're right there all the time. It is such a escalator that kind of slips, and it's constant. And I don't think people get it. If you were to ask somebody, or tell a normal fan, this guy has the most wins in UFC history, they'd be like, oh, how many times has he been champ? Never. I don't think Jim Miller's ever even fought for the belt. Cowboy has, I believe, but Jim hasn't. Yeah. And it's just crazy to think that the guys who are at the title at the moment in most of the weight classes are so dominant, how Khabib was, how now Volkanovski, and even Volkanovski and Max, below them, they kind of run through those guys already, and only a couple weight classes is the belt kind of back and forth, kind of with Moreno and Figueiredo right now. Those guys are kind of like Volk and Max, but it's just such a grind that people don't understand.
It really is.
And it's what also sucks about the judges. Like, if you get a bad call on a judge on a fight, that guy just sets you back half your purse and 2 fights.
Yep.
And it's based off a dude's opinion.
And so often we don't realize how close those fights were, and guys go on great runs and they become champions, and then you think, well, there was that one split decision in there that could have gone the other way, and if it had, Jim Miller might have fought for a title here or there. It really is a grind, and I think it's such a I love fighting so much because there's so many ways to get it done and to pave your way and to have a career. And a guy like Jim Miller, he's not a household name, but he's a legend, and he should be and will be one day a UFC Hall of Famer.
Oh, he better be.
and rightfully so. And a guy that never got the title, but still was able to etch out a Hall of Fame career. And I look up to guys like that. I would like to make a title run, but I'd be okay with being Jim Miller too.
Sure,
dang
of
it, all
course,
the heck.
yeah.
And let's just keep on fighting, keep on making money. I'm gonna go out there and do my absolute best every single time. And I think we're gonna stick around for the long haul here.
Sure. Awesome. Well, it's awesome to have you on, man. It's awesome to meet you in person. I can't wait to watch your fight next week, and hopefully get you back on here a little bit after
Absolutely. I'm serious. I'll come through and train.
Cool.
I guess Lucas is a strangler. I guess I'll have to come and get smashed by Lucas
He
a
does
little
choke
bit.
a lot of
yeah,
people.
but I'm okay with that. I'm a fast learner
He's
myself.
big, too. He walks at like 75, 78, and fights at 45.
Maybe we'll just get like some flow rounds. They're flow rounds until I get a good spot, and then I'm going to go
There
all
you
out.
go.
Yeah.
He's like, let's go easy.
Got
Awesome.
him.
Thank you, man.
Yes,
Appreciate
sir.
it.
Nice to meet you finally, and I appreciate you having me, and this was fun.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
It is all over, just like that.